Most people think modern pennies are basically worthless. But what if I told you that one quiet little coin from the late 1960s, a 1968 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, has produced some surprisingly high auction results for select examples, and that many owners still have no idea what they're holding? Not everyone is valuable, of course, but certain versions have created what collectors call quiet wealth discovery. And today, I'll show you exactly why this coin still gets attention, what separates common pieces from premium ones, and how patient sellers sometimes uncover hidden financial potential in the most ordinary places. This is the 1968 Lincoln cent with no mint mark. That means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally didn't use mint marks on cents at the time. On the surface, this coin looks like millions of others: Abraham Lincoln on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back, and copper color that most people associate with pocket change. But here's a detail collectors quietly watch. 1968 was a turning point year for U.S. coin production, and that matters more than most people realize. In the late 1960s, the U.S. Mint was dealing with rising metal costs, hoarding, and massive public demand for coins. Production was pushed to historic levels, quality control shifted, and subtle differences between dies became more common. This is where many people get confused. High mintage does not automatically mean low value. It means the average coin is common, yes, but it also means rare varieties and high-grade survivors can stand out even more sharply. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 1.7 billion Lincoln cents in 1968. That's an enormous number. Most of those coins today are worth only face value or a small premium if they're bright and clean. But collectors don't focus on the average example. They focus on outliers, coins with unusual characteristics, exceptional preservation, or confirmed varieties that dramatically change interest. Here's where things get interesting. The 1968 no mint mark penny is made of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. The classic PENNIES 1982 bronze composition that many collectors prefer. These coins were struck during a period when dies were heavily used, and that led to a higher than usual number of doubled dies, die cracks, and subtle design variations. This is where many people get confused. Not all doubling is valuable. Most doubling you see with the naked eye is mechanical doubling, which collectors generally ignore. But true doubled die varieties, where the design itself was doubled during the die-making process, are a completely different story. On select 1968 Philadelphia cents, doubling can be seen in areas like the date, Lincoln's profile, and sometimes the lettering. When confirmed by professional grading services, these coins can move into very different value territory. Another detail collectors quietly watch is strike quality. Many 1968 cents were weakly struck, especially in Lincoln's hair and the steps of the memorial building. But a sharply struck example with full details, especially in near-perfect condition, becomes much scarcer than people expect. This difference can completely change interest. Now let's talk about what separates common examples from high-value ones. Most circulated 1968 no mint mark pennies, the kind you'd find in jars, drawers, or old piggy banks, are worth 1 cent to maybe a few cents each. Even nice uncirculated rolls often sell for modest amounts because so many were saved. That's the baseline reality, and it's important to understand. But certified examples in high mint state condition, especially MS66, MS67, or higher, are a different story. These coins survive decades without major contact marks, discoloration, or wear. And because so many 1968 cents were carelessly stored in bulk bags, truly flawless pieces are surprisingly hard to find. This is where many people get confused. Grading is everything. A tiny scratch, a faint stain, or dull surfaces can drop a coin's value dramatically. But a clean, blazing red copper cent with sharp details can multiply in value many times over. Verified auction results show that top-grade certified examples have sold for strong premiums compared to ordinary uncirculated pieces. While most nice 1968 cents trade for a few dollars or less, elite condition coins, especially with full red color and no distractions, have reached into the hundreds, and in rare cases, higher depending on grade and market demand. And then there are the varieties. Collectors quietly watch for double die obverse coins, repunched dates, and other die anomalies from this year. When these are authenticated, they can produce life-changing sale results for select examples, not because everyone sells for huge money, but because the difference between common and rare versions is dramatic. This difference can completely change interest. Now let's talk about something many owners accidentally do that reduces value. The first mistake is cleaning. Polishing a copper coin destroys original surfaces and removes the very evidence collectors rely on to judge authenticity and condition. A cleaned coin, even if it looks shiny, often becomes worth less than an untouched worn example. The second mistake is improper storage. Copper reacts with air, moisture, and oils from fingers. Coins stored loose in jars, bags, or paper envelopes often develop spots or streaks that permanently reduce value. This is where many people get confused. Older does not automatically mean valuable. Preservation matters just as much as age. The third mistake is assuming that if a coin doesn't look special, it can't be special. Some valuable double dies are subtle. Some high-grade coins look ordinary to the untrained eye. And many people have spent or ignored coins that later turned out to have hidden financial potential. This is where patience changes everything. Some of the strongest auction results for modern Lincoln cents didn't come from people actively searching for rare coins. They came from collectors or families who slowly reviewed old rolls, estate holdings, or inherited collections. Quiet wealth discovery often doesn't happen fast. It happens when someone takes the time to look closely, learn what to check, and verify what they find. Now let's break down realistic value ranges so expectations stay grounded and credible. A circulated 1968 no mint mark penny is typically worth face value or just slightly more. A clean, uncirculated example might sell for a few cents to a couple of dollars, depending on color and eye appeal. Certified mint state coins in the MS65 range can move into higher double-digit territory. Top-tier certified examples, MS67 and above, can reach into the hundreds, and in rare situations, higher when demand is strong and supply is limited. And authenticated double die or major variety coins can go significantly beyond that, depending on the strength of the variety and overall condition. This is where many people get confused. Value isn't about the year alone. It's about condition, variety, eye appeal, and verification. Two coins with the same date can sell for 1 cent and hundreds of dollars, sometimes more based on those differences alone. Now here's a detail collectors quietly watch that most people never notice: color designation. Copper coins are graded not just by wear, but by surface color: red, red-brown, or brown. A full red example with original mint luster can be worth several times more than the same coin in brown condition, even if both are technically uncirculated. That subtle color difference can completely change interest. Another overlooked factor is strike sharpness. Coins with full details in Lincoln's hair and crisp, memorial steps tend to attract stronger premiums because they represent the best examples of that year's production quality. And that's harder to find in 1968 than people expect. Now let's talk about the psychology of why this coin still matters. The 1968 Lincoln cent sits at a fascinating intersection. It's modern enough that many people still have them. It's old enough that pristine survivors are scarce. And it comes from a year when production pressures created more opportunities for errors and varieties. That combination makes it especially appealing to collectors who enjoy searching, and to sellers who value patience over speed. This is where many people get confused. Collectors aren't chasing old coins alone. They're chasing condition, rarity, and stories. And sometimes, the most ordinary-looking coins quietly hold the strongest potential. So what should you actually do if you think you might have one? Start by checking the date, 1968, and confirm there's no mint mark under the date. Then examine the surfaces under good lighting. Look for doubling on the date and lettering, unusually sharp details, or unusually clean copper color. If something looks different or unusually well preserved, that's when professional evaluation becomes worthwhile. But don't rush. This is where patient sellers sometimes discover unexpected income. Coins that are carefully reviewed, properly stored, and professionally graded tend to outperform coins that are rushed to market or sold raw without verification. Knowledge and patience almost always matter more than speed. And remember, not every coin becomes a major winner, but some do. And the difference often comes down to awareness, preservation, and timing. Here's another detail collectors quietly watch: population reports. These track how many coins exist in each certified grade. When a coin has only a handful of examples at the top level, demand can push prices far higher than people expect. The 1968 no mint mark penny in elite grades falls into that category: scarce at the top, common at the bottom. That imbalance creates opportunity. This difference can completely change interest. So when people talk about hidden financial potential in modern pennies, this is what they mean. Not that every coin is valuable, but that select examples in the right condition or with the right variety can quietly outperform expectations and sometimes produce life-changing sale results for select examples. Not guaranteed, not common, but real. And that's what makes this coin fascinating. Before you move on, take a moment and check your own pennies. Look at that 1968 date again. Look closely at the lettering. Look at the surfaces. Even if you don't find a major rarity, you'll understand your coins better. And that alone puts you ahead of most people. If you want to continue this search, I recommend watching the next video on rare Lincoln pennies that have surprised owners with unexpected value. Because some of the most overlooked dates are hiding the strongest stories. In coin collecting, knowledge builds confidence. Patience builds results. And sometimes, the smallest coin in your pocket holds the biggest quiet possibility. You might be holding something in your pocket, tucked away in a jar, or even forgotten in an old coin roll that could quietly hold surprising value. Today, we're diving into a coin that often slips under the radar but has caught the attention of collectors for decades. The 1977 Abraham Lincoln penny with no mint mark. Some verified examples of this coin have sold for prices that make collectors pause, not because it's flashy, but because the story behind it creates hidden financial potential. This is where many people get confused. At first glance, it looks like any other penny from the late 1970s. But small details, tiny differences in composition, wear, or striking, can completely change interest among collectors. Let's start with a bit of context. The 1977 Lincoln penny comes from an era when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins each year. Pennies from this period were mainly copper, but subtle shifts in production methods and quality control meant that certain coins stand out to careful eyes. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch: the absence of a mint mark. Coins without a mint mark were produced at the Philadelphia Mint. While Philadelphia coins are common, some coins from this facility show errors or unusual characteristics that make them rare in collector terms. Not every 1977 penny qualifies, but the ones that do can lead to life-changing sale results for select examples. Now, why do collectors focus on this date? One reason is scarcity within familiarity. The 1977 no mint mark penny is a coin that everyone thinks they have seen, yet not everyone has looked at it closely. Varieties can include differences in the strike, slight doubling on the date, or unusual die cracks. These nuances don't scream rarity at first, but they quietly command attention among experienced buyers. This difference can completely change interest. A coin in circulated condition might be worth just face value, while a crisp, high-grade example with subtle variations could be valued at hundreds, or in rare cases, even more, depending on certification and market demand. Another factor to consider is common mistakes that reduce value. Many people overlook scratches, cleaning marks, or improper storage, thinking that minor blemishes are unimportant. This is where patient sellers discover unexpected income. Coins that appear ordinary can quietly become financial surprises when evaluated by a professional or certified by a trusted grading service. Let's break down the realistic value range. A typical circulated 1977 penny without a mint mark might trade for just a few cents to a few dollars, depending on condition. But high-grade, certified examples, especially those with recognized errors or die varieties, can climb into hundreds. Some coins have achieved quiet wealth discovery for owners who held them, patiently learning and consulting resources before selling. This is where many people get confused. Spotting an error or a high-grade coin isn't always obvious. Subtle features like doubled dies, unusual toning, or minting anomalies require a trained eye. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. Under magnification, the alignment of the date or the spacing of letters on Liberty can completely shift the perceived rarity. It's also worth noting that the market for 1977 pennies is shaped by collectors who value both history and condition. Coins preserved in original rolls or those that avoided circulation often stand out. Even coins that show minor wear can generate excitement if they carry the right combination of features, like a pristine strike or rare error. This difference can completely change interest. Two coins side by side might look identical, yet one is a mundane piece of copper and the other a collectible with life-changing sale potential. Knowledge and patience make all the difference. Mistakes owners make include rushing to sell without proper evaluation, assuming any old penny has value, or attempting home cleaning methods that damage surfaces. Each of these actions can diminish hidden financial potential that might otherwise be unlocked through careful examination and certified grading. Now, imagine finding one in your own collection, a 1977 no-mint mark penny with a subtle error or unusually strong strike. This is the moment where years of quiet collecting meet real-world results. While not every coin will lead to dramatic outcomes, the experience of discovering what you truly own can be just as rewarding. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. Even toning can affect desirability. Coins with natural, even coloration are often preferred over those with artificial alterations or environmental damage. Tiny differences, invisible to most people, are exactly what experts and collectors are trained to notice. If you think about it, every coin tells a story. The 1977 penny is a snapshot of an era, a product of meticulous minting, and a reminder that even common coins can harbor quiet wealth discovery. Before you tuck your pennies back into a drawer, take a careful look. Check the date, inspect the strike, and note any anomalies. Consulting guides or professionals can reveal value you might not have imagined. This is where patience and knowledge outweigh speed or assumptions. And if you're curious to learn even more, consider exploring related Lincoln penny videos. There's a whole world of coins from the 1970s that have quietly fascinated collectors, sometimes delivering unexpected financial outcomes for those who took the time to learn. In the end, your 1977 no-mint mark penny might just be a coin, or it could be a hidden opportunity waiting to be discovered. Handle it carefully, study it thoughtfully, and remember, knowledge and patience are what turn everyday coins into something extraordinary. Most people would never think twice about a penny from the mid-1980s. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And for decades, millions of Americans have carried this coin in their pockets without a second thought. But here's where curiosity begins. Some verified 1985 Lincoln pennies have sold for prices that shocked even longtime collectors. Not because every coin is rare, but because a small number of examples quietly stand apart in ways most people never notice. And today, we're breaking down exactly what makes the 1985 Lincoln penny worth attention, how collectors separate ordinary from exceptional, and why this single year still draws serious interest decades later. This is where many people get confused. The 1985 Lincoln penny wasn't a limited release. In fact, it was produced in massive numbers at the Denver Mint. Over 5 billion were struck, making it one of the most common pennies in American circulation. That alone causes many people to dismiss it immediately. But experienced collectors know something important. Value isn't always about how many were made. It's about condition, details, and the small number of coins that escaped circulation in near-perfect form. To understand why the 1985 penny still matters, we need to go back to its era. The mid-1980s marked a transitional time for U.S. coinage. Just a few years earlier, the mint had switched from solid copper pennies to copper-plated zinc cores. By 1985, the new composition was standard. These coins weighed 2.5 grams instead of the old 3.11 grams, and they were never meant to last as long in circulation. That's one reason pristine examples today are harder to find than people expect. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. While billions were minted, almost all entered everyday use immediately. Grocery stores, gas stations, parking meters, coin jars, and vending machines wore them down fast. Very few were saved at the time in perfect condition. And that's where serious interest begins. Let's talk about the basics. A 1985 Lincoln penny shows the familiar Abraham Lincoln portrait on the front, designed by Victor David Brenner. On the back, it carries the Lincoln Memorial design, which was used from 1959 through 2008. The D mint mark below the date tells us it was struck in Denver. And while these details sound ordinary, collectors look far deeper than surface appearance. This is where many people get confused. Two coins can look nearly identical to the untrained eye, but differ dramatically in collector value. One might be worth a single cent, while another could command hundreds or even thousands of dollars under the right conditions. The difference often comes down to surface preservation, strike quality, and whether the coin qualifies for top-tier grading. Let's break down what separates common 1985 pennies from high-interest examples. First, condition matters more than date. A heavily circulated 1985 penny with scratches, dull surfaces, or dark spots is generally worth face value. Even lightly circulated examples usually trade for just a few cents. But uncirculated coins, especially those with full original luster and no visible wear, start to move into collector territory. This difference can completely change interest. A typical uncirculated 1985 penny might sell for $1 or $2, but coins graded MS65 or higher by professional grading services begin to climb. At MS66, prices often move into the tens of dollars. At MS67, values can jump dramatically. And for MS68 examples, which are extremely rare for this date, some recorded auction results have reached into the high hundreds or even thousands, depending on eye appeal and demand at the time of sale. This is where quiet wealth discovery sometimes happens, not because someone found a rare date, but because they unknowingly held onto a coin that survived decades without damage and later certified at a top grade. Now let's talk about varieties and errors, because this is where curiosity really deepens. The 1985 penny is known for certain striking characteristics, including relatively strong details compared to earlier zinc issues. But some examples show doubled dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or other mint errors. While most of these are minor and add only modest value, certain dramatic errors have sold for hundreds of dollars or more when verified by reputable grading services. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. Many online listings claim rare error without evidence. True error coins require professional authentication, but when a real error is confirmed, especially one that affects the date, lettering, or Lincoln's portrait, collector interest can increase sharply. Another area collectors focus on is strike quality. Even among uncirculated coins, some show weak details in Lincoln's hair, cheek, or jawline, while others show crisp, sharp features. Strong strike quality combined with clean surfaces and original luster dramatically improves grading potential, and grading potential directly affects market value. This is where many people get confused. They assume age automatically means value, but in reality, a 1909 penny in poor condition may be worth less than a flawless 1985 penny. Collectors pay for preservation, not just history. Let's look at realistic value ranges. In circulated condition, most 1985 pennies are worth 1 cent. In lightly circulated condition, they may bring 2 to 5 cents. In uncirculated condition, raw coins often sell for $1 to $3. Certified MS65 examples typically trade in the $5 to $15 range. MS66 examples can range from $20 to $70 depending on eye appeal. MS67 coins often sell in the low to mid-hundreds, and MS68 examples, which are exceptionally rare, have produced life-changing sale results for select examples in competitive auctions, sometimes exceeding $1,000. Not every coin will reach these levels, but this is exactly why collectors keep checking their change, old jars, and inherited coin boxes. It's not about guarantees. It's about hidden financial potential that only appears when the right coin meets the right market. This difference can completely change interest. Now let's talk about mistakes owners make that quietly reduce value. The most common mistake is cleaning. Many people polish pennies thinking they're improving appearance, but cleaning almost always destroys collector value. Even a rare or high-grade coin becomes far less desirable once its original surfaces are altered. Collectors prefer natural toning, original luster, and untouched surfaces. Another mistake is improper storage. Tossing coins into drawers, plastic bags, or loose jars causes scratches and contact marks that permanently lower grade potential. High-value examples are usually stored in protective holders or coin flips that prevent surface damage. This is where many people get confused. They assume a shiny coin equals a valuable coin, but artificial shine from cleaning often signals damage to collectors. Original, slightly dull surfaces with intact mint luster are usually far more valuable. Another overlooked mistake is selling too quickly without verification. Some people dismiss coins before checking condition, mint mark, or professional grading potential. Others list coins online with vague descriptions and low-quality photos, missing serious buyers who look for precision and credibility. This is where patient sellers sometimes discover unexpected income. Instead of rushing to sell, they take time to understand their coin, compare it with certified examples, and decide whether professional grading makes sense. That patience often separates face value outcomes from meaningful financial results. Now let's talk about why collectors still focus on the 1985 penny today. First, it's accessible. Unlike rare gold coins or early American copper, this coin is affordable and widely available, which attracts new collectors. Second, its massive mintage makes the survival of top-grade examples statistically rare, creating competition among condition-focused buyers. Third, registry set collecting has increased demand for the highest-graded examples, where collectors compete to assemble the finest known sets of Lincoln Memorial cents. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. Population reports from grading services show that while millions of 1985 pennies exist, only a tiny fraction qualify at MS67 or higher. That scarcity combined with collector demand is what drives standout prices. This difference can completely change interest. Another factor is nostalgia. For many Americans, the mid-1980s represent childhood, early adulthood, or family milestones. Coins from this era often carry emotional value, which adds another layer of appeal beyond numbers and charts. Now let's talk about composition and why it matters. The 1985 D penny is copper-plated zinc, meaning it has a thin copper coating over a zinc core. If that plating is damaged, the coin can develop bubbling or dark corrosion spots, which significantly reduce value. Coins with intact plating and no spots are far more desirable. This is why even uncirculated examples need careful inspection under good lighting. This is where many people get confused. They see an old-looking penny and assume age equals value, but plating damage can erase collector interest almost instantly. Collectors also watch for color classification. Certified coins are often graded as red, red-brown, or brown, depending on how much original copper color remains. Full red examples bring the highest premiums. Red-brown coins sell for less, and brown coins typically sell for much less, even at the same numeric grade. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. Two MS66 coins can differ dramatically in price based solely on color designation. One might sell for $20, while the other could bring double or triple that, depending on how vibrant the copper appears. This difference can completely change interest. Now let's talk about real-world examples. In recent years, certified MS67 1985 D pennies have sold at auction for several $100s. MS68 examples, which are extremely rare, have crossed into four-figure territory under strong bidding conditions. These are not everyday outcomes. They represent top-tier survivors from billions of coins, but they demonstrate why collectors never stop searching. This is where quiet wealth discovery enters the conversation. Not because someone expected it, but because an ordinary-looking penny turned out to be extraordinary under magnification, grading standards, and collector demand. Now let's talk about how to evaluate your own 1985 D penny. Start by checking the date and mint mark. Look for 1985 and a small D below the date. Next, examine the surfaces under bright light. Look for scratches, dullness, spots, or wear on Lincoln's cheekbone, jaw, and hair. Then tilt the coin and look for original mint luster, that rolling shine that moves across the surface. If the coin still shows full luster and no obvious wear, it may qualify as uncirculated. This is where many people get confused. They assume a coin with no major scratches is uncirculated, but wear often appears first on high points like Lincoln's cheek and jaw. Even faint dulling in those areas can indicate circulation. Next, check for unusual features. Look for doubled letters, off-center designs, missing elements, or distorted edges. While most coins will be normal, any strange detail deserves closer attention. If a coin appears exceptional, consider professional grading. Grading costs money, so it only makes sense if the coin has realistic potential to achieve a high grade or significant error designation. This is where knowledge and patience matter more than speed. Now let's talk about expectations. Most 1985 D pennies are worth face value. A small percentage are worth a few dollars. A tiny fraction are worth tens or hundreds. And an extremely small number achieve life-changing sale results for select examples. The purpose of checking isn't to chase fantasy. It's to understand possibility, recognize quality, and avoid missing something meaningful. This difference can completely change interest. Collectors who succeed long-term don't rely on luck alone. They rely on learning. They study grading standards, examine certified examples, track auction results, and slowly train their eyes to spot quality. Over time, they build the ability to recognize coins others overlook. That's where hidden financial potential becomes real, not through hype, but through consistency and patience. Now let's address one more mistake owners make. They sell coins individually without understanding sets or demand patterns. Sometimes coins sell better as part of date runs, mint mark sets, or registry quality groupings. Strategic presentation can affect interest and price significantly. This is where patient sellers sometimes discover unexpected income, not by rushing, but by understanding how collectors actually buy. Before we wrap up, here's something important to remember. The 1985 penny is not rare by mintage. It is rare by condition, and condition rarity is often harder to recognize than date rarity. That's why this coin continues to surprise people decades after it was minted. This is where many people get confused. They search only for famous rare dates and overlook modern coins with exceptional preservation. But collectors know that modern condition rarities often outperform older circulated coins in the long run. So if you have old penny jars, inherited coin boxes, or rolls stored away in drawers, the 1985 Lincoln penny is absolutely worth checking. Not because every coin is valuable, but because a small number carry quiet wealth discovery potential that only becomes visible through careful inspection and informed evaluation. And here's the key takeaway. Knowledge and patience matter more than speed. The people who benefit most from coins like this are the ones who take time to learn what to look for, avoid damaging mistakes, and let the market reward quality when it appears. If you want to continue learning, there's another Lincoln penny date that surprised collectors even more, and I highly recommend watching that next. And in the meantime, take a few minutes today to check your own pennies. You never know what hidden financial potential might already be sitting in your home, waiting to be noticed.
Most people glance at a penny and assume it's worth exactly 1 cent. But what if I told you that some everyday-looking 1994 Lincoln pennies, including those with no mint mark, have quietly sold for amounts that surprised even longtime collectors? Not millions, not magic, but in select cases, life-changing sale results for the right examples. And the truth is, most owners never realize what they're holding because the value isn't in the date alone. It's in the details most people miss. Today, we're uncovering the real story behind the 1994 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny. Why collectors still watch this coin closely, what separates common pocket change from high-demand pieces, and how patience, not luck, sometimes leads to quiet wealth discovery. Stick with me because this is where many people get confused and where opportunities often disappear unnoticed. Let's start with what this coin actually is. In 1994, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents every year. These coins were made primarily from zinc with a thin copper coating, a change that had already happened in 1982 to reduce production costs. When you see a 1994 penny with no mint mark, that means it was struck in Philadelphia, the largest minting facility in the country. At first glance, that sounds ordinary, and in most cases it is. Millions of these coins are still circulating today, sitting in jars, drawers, and inherited collections. But here's the detail collectors quietly watch. Not all 1994 pennies are created equal, and a tiny percentage stand apart in ways most people never think to look for. This is where many people get confused. They assume value comes only from age or rarity, but modern-era coins like this can become valuable for very specific reasons. Condition, errors, varieties, and demand patterns among collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents. And the Lincoln Cent series is one of the most collected coin series in American history. That alone creates opportunity. Collectors love Lincoln pennies because they're familiar, affordable to start, and full of hidden complexity. Every year, every mint, and every die variation becomes part of a massive puzzle. And even dates that seem common, like 1994, can suddenly become highly desirable when certain characteristics appear. This difference can completely change interest. Now let's talk about mint marks, because this matters more than most people realize. In 1994, pennies were struck at 3 mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia coins have no mint mark. Denver coins show a D. San Francisco coins were mostly proofs for collectors, and show an S. Today's focus is on the Philadelphia version, the 1994 penny with no mint mark. because it represents the largest production, but also the widest range of condition and error potential. That wide range is exactly what creates occasional high-value surprises. This is where many people get confused. A coin doesn't need to be rare in total population to be rare in top condition or in error form. And condition is everything. Most 1994 pennies you find in circulation are worth 1 cent. That's reality. But collectors don't just pay for coins, they pay for preservation. A 1994 penny that has never circulated, never touched another coin, never been cleaned, and still shows full original mint luster is something very different. In professionally graded mint state condition, especially MS67 and above, these pennies can sell for hundreds of dollars, and in select auction cases, more. These aren't everyday finds, but they're real, verified sales, and they're the kind of results that lead to quiet wealth discovery for patient owners. This difference can completely change interest, but condition alone isn't the whole story. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch: errors and varieties. The U.S. Mint produces billions of coins using massive industrial equipment, and no system is perfect. Occasionally, coins are struck off-center, double-struck, missing layers, or showing doubled designs. These errors aren't mistakes in the sense of damage, they're minting anomalies, and collectors pay serious attention to them. On 1994 no-mint mark pennies, documented errors include off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and die breaks, double strikes, lamination errors. Each of these can multiply the value dramatically, sometimes from 1 cent to tens, hundreds, or even thousands of dollars depending on severity, eye appeal, and authenticity. This is where many people get confused. Damage from circulation doesn't increase value, but mint errors created during production absolutely can, and this difference can completely change interest. Another overlooked factor is die varieties. Small differences in lettering, spacing, or alignment caused by changes or wear in the coin dies themselves. These varieties can be subtle, but serious collectors hunt them relentlessly, and certain confirmed varieties can bring strong premiums. Now let's talk realistically about value, because credibility matters. A circulated 1994 no-mint mark penny is usually worth 1 cent to maybe a few cents in bulk. There's no mystery there. An uncirculated example pulled from a mint roll or collection, still showing bright copper color and no wear, might be worth a few dollars, especially if stored well. But professionally graded high-grade examples, especially MS66 and MS67, can reach into the tens or hundreds of dollars. In rare cases involving exceptional eye appeal or registry competition, select examples have sold for significantly more, results that quietly surprise even experienced collectors. And when genuine mint errors enter the picture, prices become case-specific. Minor errors may bring $20 to $100. Major errors, especially dramatic off-center strikes or multiple strikes, can bring hundreds or more depending on market demand. This is where many people get confused. It's not the date that creates the value, it's the combination of condition, rarity within condition, and collector demand. Now let's talk about mistakes, because this is where value often gets destroyed. One of the biggest mistakes owners make is cleaning their coins. Even gentle cleaning removes microscopic surface layers and destroys original mint luster. To collectors, a cleaned coin is permanently damaged, and value can drop by 50% or more instantly. Another mistake is storing coins loosely in jars, bags, or drawers where they rub against other coins. This creates contact marks and dull surfaces that permanently reduce collector appeal. This difference can completely change interest. Another mistake is assuming a coin is valuable without verification, or worse, selling too quickly without learning what they have. Many high-end results happen because someone took time to research, grade, and wait for the right buyer. This is where patient sellers sometimes discover unexpected income, not because every coin is special, but because occasionally one is. Now here's something most people never think about. The Lincoln cent market is driven not just by rarity, but by completion pressure. Collectors building high-grade registry sets compete fiercely for top examples of each date and mint. Even a common date coin like the 1994 Philadelphia cent can become valuable if it ranks among the best preserved examples known. That demand creates hidden financial potential, not overnight riches, but meaningful value for select coins that meet strict standards. This is where many people get confused. Value doesn't come from hype. It comes from data, grading, and collector demand patterns over time. And that's exactly why this date still matters. The 1994 penny sits in a modern era where billions were minted, but only a tiny fraction survived in pristine condition. And even fewer show verified mint errors or standout visual appeal. That shrinking pool is what quietly drives premiums, not viral claims, not speculation, but market reality. Now let's talk about how someone might uncover quiet wealth discovery in a coin like this. It usually starts with careful inspection under good lighting. Look for sharp details in Lincoln's hair and beard's strong original copper color, no wear on high points, no obvious scratches, or dull surfaces, unusual shapes, misalignments, or design doubling if something looks unusual. That's where professional evaluation matters. Third-party grading services authenticate coins, confirm errors, and assign standardized grades that buyers trust. This is where many people get confused. A coin isn't valuable because someone says it is, it's valuable because the market verifies it. And once verified, patient sellers sometimes discover unexpected income by waiting for the right venue, auctions, collector platforms, or specialty dealers, instead of rushing into quick sales. This difference can completely change interest. Now let's bring this together. Most 1994 no-mint mark pennies are ordinary pocket change. That's the truth. But select examples, high-grade survivors, verified errors, or rare varieties, have demonstrated real collector demand, and in some cases, life-changing sale results for those rare few. Not guarantees, not promises, but documented outcomes driven by condition, rarity, and patience. And this is exactly why collectors continue to watch modern pennies closely, because the next discovery doesn't always come from the 1800s. Sometimes it comes from a jar on a shelf. This is where many people get confused. They think valuable coins must look old. But sometimes the most valuable coins look ordinary until someone looks closer. So here's what I encourage you to do. Take a few minutes. Pull out your 1994 pennies. Look closely. Check for mint marks. Examine surfaces. Look for oddities. And if something stands out, don't clean it. Don't rush it. Learn about it. Because knowledge and patience matter more than speed in this hobby. And if you want to continue exploring coins with hidden financial potential, there's another penny video waiting for you right now. One that shows how small differences can create big outcomes. Thanks for watching. Check your change carefully. Sometimes the quiet discoveries are the ones that matter most.
Imagine holding a coin in your hand that most people overlook every single day. A coin that looks ordinary, yet in certain circles, it has quietly fetched life-changing sale results for select examples. Today, we're talking about the 2000 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin that has stirred curiosity and excitement among collectors for years. While most of these pennies are worth only a few cents, verified examples have occasionally sold for numbers that make even seasoned collectors do a double take. This is where many people get confused. After all, the 2000 penny was produced in the millions. How could any of them be considered rare? The answer lies not just in the date, but in subtle details that collectors quietly watch. Things like production errors, composition differences, and how well the coin has been preserved can completely change interest. Let's start with some background. The year 2000 was a turning point for Lincoln pennies. By this time, the coin had already undergone the transition from the classic wheatback reverse to the familiar Lincoln Memorial reverse, a design that had been in circulation since 1959. Most pennies from this year were minted in Denver, which is why nearly every coin carries the small D mint mark. But the no mint mark examples, those struck in Philadelphia, are slightly more elusive than many realize. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. The absence of a mint mark doesn't automatically make a coin valuable. What matters is condition and rarity within that group. Circulated pennies from Philadelphia in 2000 are usually just face value, but uncirculated coins, or those with specific die errors, can attract collectors willing to pay hundreds or even thousands in extreme cases. This difference can completely change interest in what otherwise looks like an ordinary coin. Now, let's talk about composition. By 2000, pennies were no longer made of solid copper. Most coins were zinc with a thin copper plating, which gives them the familiar color. But subtle differences in weight or plating thickness, sometimes caused by production anomalies, can quietly indicate an unusual strike. Collectors and buyers who know what to look for can spot these quietly, and when certified by grading companies, these coins can achieve hidden financial potential beyond their face value. Another factor to consider is die errors. Some 2000 no-mint mark pennies exhibit doubling, weak strikes, or small misalignments that the casual owner might miss. This is where many people get confused. They see a slightly off-looking penny and assume it's worthless. In reality, these small anomalies can attract intense collector interest. Even a single minor die flaw can elevate a coin from ordinary to highly sought after in the right circles. Let's look at realistic value ranges. A circulated 2000 no-mint mark penny is generally worth 1 cent, sometimes 2 or 3 if it's exceptionally clean. Uncirculated coins, especially those graded at MS65 or higher, can sell for $50 to $100 or more. Certified examples with unique die errors have been quietly known to reach several $100s, and in rare, exceptional cases, collectors have reported life-changing sale results for select examples. This is where patience matters. Many owners overlook the potential of their pennies, keeping them in jars or drawers. Some sellers, after careful research or consultation with a numismatist, discover unexpected income from coins they assumed were worthless. This quiet wealth discovery doesn't happen overnight. It requires patience, knowledge, and careful verification. Mistakes owners make are common. Cleaning coins aggressively, using harsh chemicals, or even just polishing them can drastically reduce value. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. The original surface and patina of a coin is often more valuable than a shiny, polished surface. If you suspect a coin could be a high-value 2000 no-mint mark, always have it professionally assessed before taking any action. Now, why do collectors focus on this date at all? Even though millions were minted, the no-mint mark Philadelphia coins were produced in slightly smaller numbers compared to the Denver strikes. Combine that with exceptional preservation or unusual die varieties, and you have a coin that quietly holds hidden financial potential. It's not common, but that rarity is what drives interest and can lead to life-changing results for select examples. If you're watching this, this is the moment to pay attention to your own coins. Take a careful look at any 2000 pennies you have tucked away. Examine them for mint marks, unusual features, or even subtle imperfections that could hint at a rare variety. Even a single well-preserved, no-mint mark penny could be more valuable than a jar full of common coins. As you consider this, remember that knowledge and patience matter far more than speed. The coin market moves slowly, and what seems insignificant today could be tomorrow's quiet wealth discovery. If you enjoyed learning about the 2000 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, there's another video exploring other rare Lincoln pennies from the same era, which could help you identify coins you didn't even know you owned. Take the time to check your pennies carefully. Examine, compare, and consider professional grading if you believe you may have an unusual example. In the world of coin collecting, diligence often pays off, and understanding the story behind each coin can lead to more than just a moment of curiosity. It can uncover hidden financial potential you never expected. Most people never look twice at a penny from 2008. It feels modern, ordinary, something you'd barely notice in your pocket. But here's what's surprising. Certain verified examples of the 2008 no-mint mark Lincoln penny have sold for prices that made collectors stop and look again. Not because every coin is rare, far from it, but because a small number of overlooked details quietly changed everything. And today, you'll learn exactly what those details are, why collectors still watch this date closely, and how some people discover unexpected financial potential in coins they've owned for years without realizing it. Let's start with something simple. The 2008 Lincoln penny was struck in enormous numbers. This was the final year before the Lincoln cent design changed in 2009 to honor Lincoln's bicentennial. So in many ways, 2008 marks the end of an era, the last full year of the classic Lincoln Memorial reverse that Americans had seen since 1959. Millions of these coins entered circulation, which is why most people assume they're worth face value. And most of the time, that's true. But this is where many people get confused. Not all pennies from the same year are created equal. When collectors talk about the 2008 no-mint mark penny, they're referring specifically to coins made at the Philadelphia Mint. These coins carry no letter under the date, no D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, just the date, 2008. And while most of them are common, a small group stands out because of condition, composition, or rare minting anomalies. This difference can completely change interest. To understand why, you need to know what these pennies are made of. By 2008, Lincoln cents were no longer mostly copper. Instead, they were zinc cores with a thin copper coating, about 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper. That might sound technical, but here's why it matters. Zinc-based cents are far more sensitive to damage, corrosion, and wear. That means high-quality, well-preserved examples are much harder to find than people expect. And collectors quietly watch that. Now let's talk about why this specific date still gets attention. 2008 pennies are common in circulation, but extremely uncommon in top condition. When coins are professionally graded, meaning they're examined under magnification and sealed in protective holders, even tiny imperfections can lower the grade. Most 2008 no-mint mark pennies fall into average circulated grades, where their value stays close to face value. But once you reach near-perfect mint state levels, especially MS67 or higher, values can climb sharply. This is where many people get confused. They assume age creates value. But in modern coins, condition often matters more than the year itself. Some certified 2008 no-mint mark Lincoln cents in exceptional condition have sold for hundreds of dollars. In rare top-grade cases, auction prices have gone higher, not because the coin is ancient or gold, but because surviving flawless examples are surprisingly scarce. These are the types of results collectors describe as quiet wealth discovery. Coins that sat unnoticed for years before suddenly attracting strong demand. But condition alone isn't the whole story. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch: varieties and mint errors. While most 2008 pennies look identical, some show striking anomalies, and that's where interest can spike dramatically. Examples include off-center strikes, doubled dies, clipped planchets, and weak or distorted lettering. A genuine doubled die, where parts of the design appear doubled due to a misaligned die during production, can elevate a coin's value from cents to hundreds, or in rare situations, far more. This difference can completely change interest. Even small-looking errors, if verified by professional grading services, can turn a coin into something collectors actively seek. That's why experienced buyers don't just glance at the date. They inspect the lettering, Lincoln's profile, the memorial columns, and even the rim. Now let's talk about realistic values without exaggeration. Most circulated 2008 no-mint mark pennies are worth exactly 1 cent. Even uncirculated examples pulled from rolls often sell for just a few cents each. But once you reach certified mint state levels, values change. In MS65 condition, Prices can range from a few dollars to the low teens. In MS66, values can rise into the $20 to $50 range. In MS67, examples have sold for well over $100, and sometimes more, depending on eye appeal and demand at the time of auction. Coins with verified errors or rare varieties can exceed those ranges significantly, sometimes reaching into the hundreds or even higher. Not because every coin does this, but because select examples trigger collector competition. That's what people mean when they talk about life-changing sale results for select examples. Not guaranteed outcomes, but real auction results from rare, high-quality coins that stood out in the market. And here's where many people make costly mistakes. First mistake, cleaning the coin. Even gentle cleaning can permanently damage the surface and strip away collectible value. A coin that might have graded high can instantly become worth only face value. Collectors want originality, not shine. Second mistake, spending or trading coins too quickly. Many people assume newer pennies can't be valuable and release them without checking for varieties, errors, or condition quality. Sometimes the difference between ordinary and exceptional is invisible without magnification. Third mistake, storing coins improperly. Zinc cents are vulnerable to moisture, air exposure, and temperature swings. A coin that sits in a damp drawer can develop corrosion spots that permanently reduce its grade. Meanwhile, a coin stored in a dry holder or sleeve may preserve its potential for decades. This is where many people get confused. They think rarity means old. But in modern coins, rarity often means survival in perfect condition. Now here's something few people realize. Some of the most valuable modern pennies weren't discovered immediately. They were found years later, sometimes decades, sitting in jars, drawers, inherited collections, or forgotten rolls. The owners didn't rush to sell. They didn't dismiss them. They simply stayed curious long enough to look deeper. That patience is what collectors call hidden financial potential. Not because every penny becomes valuable, but because some quietly outperform expectations. Let's talk about how to tell if your 2008 no mint mark penny deserves a closer look. Start with the surface. Is it clean, smooth, and free of spots, stains, or scratches? Look at Lincoln's cheekbone, jawline, and hair. These areas show wear first. Check the memorial steps and columns on the reverse. Sharp, clean details increase appeal. Next, check the lettering. Do any letters look doubled, stretched, or shifted? Look closely at Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date. Even slight doubling can indicate a variety worth professional evaluation. Then inspect the strike. Is the coin centered? Are the rims complete? Does anything look clipped, warped, or uneven? These irregularities may signal mint errors. This difference can completely change interest. And here's a detail collectors quietly watch: color. Uncirculated copper-plated zinc cents come in three color designations: red, red-brown, and brown. Coins that retain full original red luster command significantly higher prices than dull or darkened examples. Even two coins with identical grades can have very different market values based on color alone. That's something most people never notice, but professionals absolutely do. Now let's address the big question. Can the 2008 no mint mark penny be valuable? Yes, in select cases. Not because the year itself is rare, but because exceptional preservation, verified varieties, or genuine mint errors can create demand far beyond face value. And when that demand meets limited supply, prices rise. But this is where many people get confused. Not every coin becomes a winner. The market rewards scarcity, quality, and authenticity, not wishful thinking. Still, what makes this date exciting is that many of these coins are still out there, quietly circulating or sitting unnoticed in collections. That's what fuels curiosity. That's what creates the possibility of quiet wealth discovery, not overnight riches, but unexpected results from careful attention. And here's something else. Some collectors don't even sell immediately. They hold their best coins, watching the market mature, waiting for the right moment. Over time, certain modern issues develop stronger demand as registry collectors compete for top populations. When that happens, prices can rise sharply, even for coins that once seemed ordinary. This difference can completely change interest. That's why patience often matters more than speed. Now, let's talk briefly about grading. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC authenticate coins, evaluate condition, and seal them in protective holders. While grading costs money, it can dramatically increase liquidity and buyer confidence for high-quality or unusual coins. But it only makes sense if the coin has strong potential, not for everyday circulated examples. This is where many people get confused. They think every coin should be graded. In reality, only select examples benefit from certification. So what's the smart approach? Start with inspection. If your coin looks flawless, unusual, or error-prone, compare it to high-resolution images online from reputable sources. If it still stands out, consider professional evaluation. If not, you've still learned something valuable and avoided unnecessary expense. And that knowledge compounds. Every time you examine a coin, your eye improves. Your confidence improves. Your ability to recognize quiet opportunities improves. That's how experienced collectors operate, not with hype, but with patience and pattern recognition. Now let's zoom out for a moment. Why do people care about pennies like this at all? Because history hides in plain sight. Because small objects can carry unexpected stories. And sometimes, because something ordinary becomes extraordinary not by magic, but by rarity, survival, and demand intersecting in quiet ways. That's what makes the 2008 no-mint mark Lincoln penny interesting. Not because everyone will find a valuable one, but because some people already have, without realizing it at first. And this is where many people get confused. They think valuable coins announce themselves, but most don't. They wait to be noticed. So before you dismiss that jar of change, that inherited box, or that forgotten roll of pennies, slow down. Look closer, because sometimes what feels ordinary carries hidden financial potential that only reveals itself with attention and patience. And here's the final truth. Knowledge beats luck. Collectors who learn, observe, and wait tend to outperform those who rush. They don't chase guarantees. They study patterns. They understand that select examples can produce life-changing sale results, not through hype, but through discipline and timing. So after this video, take a moment, pull out your 2008 pennies, look for that missing mint mark, study the surfaces, examine the lettering, and most importantly, stay curious. If you'd like to go deeper, watch the next video in this series, where we break down another overlooked Lincoln cent date that surprised collectors with unexpected auction results. Because in coin collecting, patience doesn't just protect value, sometimes it reveals it. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that, at first glance, looks just like any other penny in your wallet. But what if that very coin could quietly hold the potential for a life-changing sale? Some verified examples of the 2014 Abraham Lincoln penny, minted without a mint mark, have surfaced on the market for unusually high prices, enough to make collectors and casual coin owners alike stop and take notice. Today, we're diving deep into this seemingly ordinary coin, exploring why it has captured the attention of collectors, and why some pennies from this year can quietly transform a collection into something extraordinary. The 2014 Lincoln penny belongs to a long lineage of coins that have been part of American history for over a century. By 2014, the penny's design had remained largely consistent for decades, featuring the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Union shield on the reverse. But what makes this coin truly intriguing isn't just its appearance, it's the context of its production. That year, the U.S. Mint was issuing pennies across multiple facilities, and coins without mint marks were primarily struck at the Philadelphia Mint. For casual collectors, a penny is just a penny. But for those who know where to look, Small differences in composition, strike, and condition can carry significant value. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. The No Mint Mark 2014 penny exists in both standard circulation strikes and a limited number of high-quality, error-free examples that sometimes slip through from collectors' sets. These coins can feature subtle differences in the metal composition or minor die variations that make them stand out when examined closely. And while most pennies from 2014 are common, it's these subtle varieties that have quietly achieved higher than expected auction results. This is where many people get confused. A 2014 penny without a mint mark in circulated condition may sell for only face value, sometimes slightly more if it's in exceptionally good shape. But a fully certified, pristine example, especially one showing any verified die anomaly, can command a price far above what most people imagine. This difference can completely change interest among collectors and savvy buyers alike. In some cases, coins that sat in a jar for years have been sold for hundreds of dollars once they were professionally graded and authenticated. Let's take a closer look at what separates the common from the noteworthy. First, condition is everything. A penny that shows minimal wear, clear detail on Lincoln's profile, and crisp lettering is always more desirable. Second, any die imperfections or mint errors, slight doubling of letters, off-center strikes, or unusual coloration can make a coin far more collectible. Third, provenance matters. Coins that come from verified rolls or have documented history tend to attract attention from serious buyers. And this is exactly where patient sellers sometimes discover unexpected income. They don't rush to cash in but carefully assess and verify their coins. Here's another detail collectors quietly watch: the metal composition. By 2014, pennies were already made primarily from zinc with a thin copper plating. Subtle differences in the strike or the way the plating adheres can make an otherwise ordinary coin stand out. Some professional graders have noted that certain coins from this year can appear almost mirror-like, catching the light in a way that enhances both aesthetic and collector appeal. These are the types of hidden financial potential that casual observers might completely overlook. Mistakes owners make that reduce value are surprisingly common. Many pennies are cleaned, polished, or even slightly bent, and these alterations can instantly reduce interest among collectors. Even a small scratch in the right spot can take a coin from potentially notable to just another circulated piece. Here's a rule of thumb: if you want to discover hidden wealth in your collection, resist the urge to improve the coin yourself. Preservation and professional grading are far more valuable than immediate visual appeal. This is where many people get confused again. Just because a penny is from 2014 and has no mint mark doesn't automatically make it rare. It's about the combination of condition, subtle variety, and documentation. Life-changing sale results come from select examples that meet these precise criteria. Quiet wealth discovery often happens to those who are patient, observant, and willing to verify what they have before selling. Now, realistic value ranges. For a circulated 2014 no mint mark penny, most are worth face value up to a few cents over if sold to a collector. But for coins in mint condition, graded by trusted organizations, values can reach into the tens or even low hundreds of dollars. And while these numbers aren't staggering compared to some rare coins from the early 20th century, the return relative to the original cost, less than a penny, is significant. It's proof that careful attention can uncover financial opportunities where others see only small change. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch: the edges of the coin. Slight differences in rim thickness or even minor die cracks can be enough to attract serious collectors, especially when paired with perfect surfaces. These are the nuances that distinguish a standard penny from one with genuine hidden financial potential. So, what should you do if you have a 2014 penny without a mint mark? First, carefully inspect it for condition, die varieties, or subtle errors. Second, consider professional grading if you suspect your coin might be exceptional. Third, remember that knowledge and patience are your best tools. Rushing to sell rarely uncovers quiet wealth. And finally, keep learning. Watch videos on related penny years and mint mark variations. Understanding the market increases the chance of discovering coins that can yield life-changing results. In the end, the 2014 no mint mark Lincoln penny is a reminder that even the most familiar coins can hold surprises. Hidden financial potential doesn't always shout. It often waits quietly in jars, drawers, and collections, waiting for someone willing to look a little closer. By taking the time to carefully check your pennies, understand what makes them special, and remain patient, you're not just holding change, you're holding the possibility of discovery. Before you go, consider exploring another video on rare Lincoln pennies from the last decade. Each coin has its own story, subtle details, and chance for quiet wealth discovery. And remember, when it comes to coins, knowledge and patience always outweigh speed. Your next hidden gem might already be sitting in your pocket. Most people think modern pennies are boring, just pocket change. But what if I told you that a small number of 2016 Lincoln pennies with a D mint mark have quietly sold for prices that surprised even experienced collectors? Not because they're old, not because they're gold, but because of tiny details almost nobody notices. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what separates ordinary cents from select examples that triggered serious collector interest and unexpected income. This isn't about hype. It's about understanding why certain modern coins behave differently in the market, and why some owners only realize what they had after it was already gone. Let's start with what this coin actually is. The 2016 D Lincoln penny was struck at the Denver Mint during a year when over 7 billion cents were produced across all mints. On the surface, that sounds like the opposite of rare, and most of these coins are worth exactly 1 cent in circulation today. But this is where many people get confused. In modern coin collecting, value isn't driven only by age or low mintage. It's driven by condition, surface quality, strike characteristics, and most importantly, minting varieties that slipped through unnoticed during mass production. And 2016 was a year when the U.S. Mint was operating at extremely high speed. That matters, because when machines run at scale, small errors and anomalies happen. Most get caught, some don't, and a few survive long enough to reach collectors who understand exactly what they're looking at. That's where the story of the 2016 D penny becomes interesting. This coin features Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, and the Union Shield reverse, introduced in 2010 to represent Lincoln's preservation of the United States. It's composed of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating, the same composition used since 1982. So far, nothing unusual, but collectors don't value coins based on what they're supposed to be. They value them based on what they actually are, and this difference can completely change interest. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. Even though billions were minted, only a tiny fraction survive today in pristine condition. Most were scraped, dropped, rolled, counted by machines, or exposed to moisture and oils within weeks of leaving the mint. That damage permanently lowers collector appeal. But a small number, especially those saved directly from rolls, remained untouched. And when a modern coin like a 2016 D penny survives in near-perfect or flawless condition, certified by professional grading services, it can enter a completely different market category. This is where some verified sales surprise people. While circulated examples typically trade at face value, and even uncirculated rolls often sell modestly, select high-grade certified specimens, especially those graded MS67 or higher, have sold for prices that many people don't associate with modern pennies. Not because they're common, but because condition rarity is real rarity. And this is where many people get confused. They assume rarity only means low production numbers, but in modern coin markets, survival rarity matters more. Out of millions of coins struck, how many survived in essentially flawless condition? Often fewer than a few dozen, and collectors compete aggressively for those. Now let's talk about varieties, because this is where hidden financial potential enters the picture. Some 2016 D pennies show subtle anomalies such as doubled dies, die chips, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or unusual plating errors. Most are microscopic and go unnoticed, but a small number are dramatic enough to attract collector attention and grading submissions. When authenticated, certain error coins, even from modern years, have produced life-changing sale results for select examples, not because everyone finds them, but because almost nobody looks. This difference can completely change interest. For example, a strong doubled die on Lincoln's lettering or date, or a clear misalignment strike, can move a penny from pocket change into collector territory. Add pristine surface quality, and suddenly a coin that cost 1 cent becomes something buyers actively compete for. And this is where patience matters. Because most people who find something unusual either clean the coin, damage it accidentally, or dismiss it before it ever reaches the right hands. Let's talk realistic values. In circulated condition, a normal 2016 D penny is worth exactly 1 cent. In lightly worn condition, still 1 cent. Even in basic uncirculated condition, most examples trade for a few cents to a few dollars in bulk. But when professionally graded in very high mint state, especially MS67, MS68 or higher, verified sales have reached into the tens, and in select circumstances even higher. Error varieties can push values further depending on visibility, eye appeal, and authentication. Not every coin qualifies, not most coins, but some do. And that's what creates quiet wealth discovery, not from hype, but from understanding. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. Surface quality. Modern zinc scents are extremely sensitive to corrosion and spotting. Even coins that look shiny at first glance can fail grading standards due to microscopic surface degradation. That's why truly pristine modern scents are harder to find than people expect. Strike sharpness matters too. Weak strikes reduce collector demand. Crisp lettering, clean devices, and strong shield lines increase it. And originality matters. Coins that have been cleaned, polished, dipped, or wiped, even gently, almost always lose collector value permanently. Even rare errors can be rejected by grading services if surfaces are altered. This is where many people get confused. They think cleaning improves value. In coin collecting, cleaning usually destroys it. Now let's talk about mistakes owners make. One of the biggest is spending unusual coins before checking them. Many people notice something odd, hesitate for a second, then drop it into circulation anyway. Once gone, it's gone. Another mistake is improper storage. Tossing coins into pockets, jars, or humid environments leads to scratches and corrosion, even on coins that were once uncirculated. And perhaps the biggest mistake is assuming modern coins can't be valuable. That belief alone has caused countless people to overlook varieties that later sold for strong prices once discovered by someone else. This difference can completely change interest. Now here's something few people realize. Modern coins are actually easier to authenticate and grade than older coins because the standards are more consistent and the surfaces are easier to evaluate. That means collectors trust high-grade modern coins, and that trust drives prices, but only for coins that meet strict criteria, not guesses, not hopes, not assumptions, verified examples only. And that's where patient sellers sometimes discover unexpected income, not overnight wealth, not guaranteed riches, but meaningful financial results that began with curiosity instead of dismissal. Here's a detail collectors quietly watch. Mint rolls. Coins pulled directly from sealed rolls and stored properly since issue have a higher chance of surviving in top condition. That's why collectors and dealers often examine original rolls from banks or estate collections, especially from modern years with known varieties. But even then, only a tiny fraction meet elite grade standards. And this is where many people get confused. They assume rolls equal value. But rolls only improve odds, they don't guarantee results. Let's talk briefly about composition and durability. Because 2016 pennies are zinc-based, they corrode easily once the copper plating is breached. Even a tiny nick can expose the zinc core, leading to bubbling, streaking, and surface decay over time. That's why untouched examples are becoming scarcer, not because fewer were minted, but because fewer survive clean. And that creates another layer of condition rarity. Now let's bring this together. Most 2016 D pennies are ordinary, but a very small percentage, high-grade survivors and legitimate error varieties, occupy a completely different category in the market. That's where hidden financial potential lies. Not in hope, not in hype, but in details. This difference can completely change interest. And the reason collectors still watch this date isn't because it's rare, it's because modern coins offer something older coins no longer can. Fresh discoveries. New varieties still surface. New high-grade examples still emerge. And every year, fewer survive in pristine condition. That shrinking population quietly increases competition for top examples. Here's the part most people miss. The biggest value gains in coins don't come from speed, they come from patience, from not rushing to sell, from learning what you have before letting it go, and from understanding that knowledge beats luck every time. This is where many people get confused. They chase viral headlines, but the real collectors chase surfaces, strikes, grades, and authentication. Now let's talk about what you can do. If you own 2016 pennies, especially ones that look unusually sharp, clean, or different, examine them carefully under good lighting. Look for doubling in the lettering or date. Check the edges. Look for off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or plating flaws. But do not clean them. And don't assume. If something looks genuinely unusual or pristine, research it. Compare it to verified examples. And only then consider professional evaluation. That's how quiet wealth discovery happens, not from rushing, but from patience and precision. And here's something important to remember. Not finding value doesn't mean failure. It means you learned. And every collector who eventually finds something meaningful spent years examining coins that didn't qualify. That's the real game. Now here's the takeaway. The 2016 D Lincoln penny is not rare, but select examples absolutely are. And those select examples have produced life-changing sale results for certain owners, not because everyone gets rich, but because a few coins met very specific conditions at exactly the right time. And this difference can completely change interest. So tonight, when you empty your change jar or check that old roll of pennies in your drawer, look again, not with hope, but with understanding. Because sometimes, the most overlooked coins carry the most hidden financial potential. And if you want to see another penny date that shocked collectors in similar ways, watch the next video, because knowledge compounds and patience pays. Every great coin story begins the same way, with someone who didn't ignore the small details.